Alright, welcome back to another week of math. I am only going to have one video this week because you're going to be taking a quiz over everything you've done the last week and a half. So I'm on page 346 in your math book. Before you take your quiz, go to page 346 and you can do the practice review test that's in the back of your book. So again, it's always going to give you a nice example. Look to the page numbers if it's not making any sense, and then go ahead and try to do this just right in your notebook. So 14 through 18, and then on page 347, go ahead and do 7.6 and 7.7. So review the material, refer back to these page numbers if you need to, otherwise complete 14 through 34, and then you can go online and take your test. So I just have that written down here as well as in your slideshow. So practice, you can do this practice problems in your notebook. Remember, the practice part is not online, that's just in your notebook. But then go online and take the quiz, and remember to hit submit. Remember, you can't check your answers for the quiz, so do the very best you can. Otherwise, we are going to start with our next chapter, our final chapter for chapter 6. It is on chapter 8, surface area and volume. So it's a short one, only 3 sections, but there's a lot to it. So let's just get going right away. I'm going to go to page 356. All right, here we have just getting into some geometry. So a solid is a three-dimensional figure that encloses a space. A polyhedron is a solid whose faces are all polygons. So we have 3 main vocabulary words we're going to be going over. A face is a flat surface of a polyhedron. So this pink shaded area is just one of the faces. This is the top. There's obviously a bottom, a front, a back if we look at here, a side, and then another side over there. We have an edge, which is just a line segment. I guess that's a little bit better. Kind of dark. Doesn't have that glare though. Okay, so it's a line segment where 2 faces intersect. Just the edge. Think of like the edge of your desk. If you're in your bed, the edge of your bed where the top and the side is coming together. And here's one edge, but obviously we have lots of edges all over this shape. And then a vertex is a fancy name for a corner. Just think of a corner. It's where 3 or more edges intersect. 3 or more edges are coming together. That's called a vertex. So here, finding the number of faces, edges, and vertices. Vertices is just vertex in a plural form. So if we have this shape, I gotta put the light back on. I think that's a little bit better, even though we have a little glare. Okay, so in this shape, that we would call this a trapezoidal prism, because if you look at this top or this bottom part, that is a trapezoid. And we have all rectangular sides, so this is called a trapezoidal prism. So if you count up all the faces, think of the top, the bottom, the front, the back, this side, and this side, you're going to have 6 faces. The edges, it's kind of like those darker blue lines, and even the dashed line, those are edges. They're just trying to give you that 3D feel so that you can kind of see beyond. So we have 12 edges. If you count up them all, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then the corners, those are the little green balls. There's 8 vertices, 8 corners. So we're going to do one right here on our own, this shape. So how many faces, edges, and vertices? So right here, I have, this is on page 356, faces, edges, vertices. I like my shortcuts, FEV for faces, edges, vertices. So how many faces do you count? Well, I have a front and a back, that's 2, 3 in the bottom, 4, 5. So there are 5 faces. Edges, count up all the lines, including the dashed. I kind of go by shape. I know the front is a triangle and the back is a triangle, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let me add in here a 9. And then vertices are the corners. They don't have the little green balls, but we can kind of figure out where they would be. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, that's a corner back there, even though it's hard to see. So we have 6 vertices. Alrighty, so now we're going to get into prisms and pyramids. So this is a prism. A prism is just a polyhedron that has 2 parallel identical bases. This time the base is in the front and it's in the back. And then the lateral faces are parallelograms. Lateral just means like the side faces. Like the sides are all parallelograms, rectangular based. And then we have a pyramid, which is a polyhedron that has 1 base that's on the bottom. This is a rectangle. Kind of looks like a square, but we're going to call it a rectangle. And the lateral faces are all triangles. The lateral faces, again, are the sides. I don't know if you can see that. There. The lateral faces are the sides. And they're always going to be triangles. Pyramids always come to 1 point at the top. Prisms never have just 1 point. This just has a line on the top. So that's my little caveat down here. Prisms do not come to 1 point on the top, but pyramids do come to 1 point at the top. Alrighty. On page 357, we're going to get into some drawings. Here they're going to just give you step-by-steps on how to draw a rectangular prism. I'm going to go do that in a minute with our On Your Owns. And here's step-by-step directions on how to draw a triangular pyramid. So it's telling you steps and how to do that. If you want to pause and practice a little bit on a scrap piece of paper, feel free to do so. But I'm going to keep on moving. Down here we're going to draw views of a solid. So here we have that classic pink eraser, and we got to do the front view. So if you're looking just at this front right here, you can see it looks like a parallelogram, so that's why they drew a parallelogram. The side view, that's right here. Well, that is definitely a rectangle. And then the top view, if I was like a bird looking straight down, that's just a big rectangle on the top. Now we're going to draw a square prism and a pentagonal pyramid. So, alright, so square prism. So if you see a square, you're going to draw a square the best you can. Okay. And it's a prism, so that doesn't mean it's going to have a point on the top. It's going to be more of that flat top. So to draw a square prism, draw 1 square, and then I always go up and over and draw an identical square, the best you can. Alright, so again, a square, draw another square because prisms have 2 identical bases. 2 identical bases, and here those are right here. Now just connect corner for corner. So if I'm going to start with the upper left, I'm going to draw a line to my upper left corner. Upper right corner goes to upper right corner. Bottom right corner to bottom right corner. bottom left corner, and I'm going to make this a dashed line, to bottom left corner. And then it just gives it a little bit more dimension if you make these kind of background lines dashed. And there's your square prism. You could do any kind of prism as long as whatever this says. If it's a square prism, start with squares. If it's a rectangular prism, start with rectangles. If it's a octagonal prism, start with an octagon. And then make sure you're making 2 of those, whatever those bases are. That's going to tell you what the base is going to look like. All right, now let's go to a pentagonal pyramid. Pyramids come to a point. So I got to start with a pentagon. A pentagon is a 5-sided object. Not the best at this. Here we go. There's my pentagon. Kind of like a house, but I like to curve these sides in a little bit. So if I was doing a pentagonal prism, I would draw this same exact shape off to the back and then connect corner for corner. But since it's a pyramid, I'm going to just draw a dot at the top, just like this example showed us to do. And now connect all of my corners up to that dot. Yeah. My eraser is about gone, so you could kind of erase and get some dotted lines back there, but that's a pentagonal pyramid. And again, pentagonal pyramids mean they're going to have one base, and that base is going to be whatever this tells you. So if you were drawing a rectangular pyramid, you would start with a rectangle. Actually, I'm going to start more like a parallelogram. They kind of just look a little better if you angle them. And then put your dot. Oops, that's kind of curved. And then draw your corners. Like a bear dot. Up to that dot. And there's your square or rectangular pyramid. Okay, so now we're going to draw the front, side, and top views of the solids just like they did here. So if I'm looking at this and if I'm looking at the front, it looks like a triangle, so that's what I'm going to draw for my front view. My side, this big area right here looks like a big rectangle, so that's what I'm going to draw. And then the top view, if I was a bird looking straight down on here, I would look right through this and I'd kind of see this square bottom. And so I'm going to draw kind of that square bottom, but I'm going to see that line going through it. This line right here is this line right here. This is kind of a little tricky to do, so do the best. I don't know how they're going to have you do it online. Obviously you're not drawing, but you'll probably be picking and choosing. All right, number 5, front view. Looking directly at it, looks like a triangle. Looking at this side right here, looks like another triangle. And then if I was a bird looking directly down, again, I would see this point and I would look down and I'd see this square at the bottom. So I'm going to draw that square at the bottom because that's what I'm going to see through, but I'm going to see that point on the top, and I'm just going to kind of see these edges coming down. So if I was a bird looking directly down, that's what I would see for number 5. Alrighty. Well, that's the beginning of chapter 5. I'm sorry, chapter 8. And now you have a bigideas.com lesson for section 8.1. I believe it's 10 questions, might even be a little fewer than that. So move over there and get to that, and have a great week, guys.